Hey, hi all, welcome to the channel. Hope all is well at your end. So today we'll talk about database constants, which plays an important role in maintaining database integrity and validations. So we will talk about all the major constants, basically primary key, foreign key, unique key, not null constants, and default value concept. Okay. So let's start this particular video. But before that, if you are new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe it. Please don't forget to share this video further with your friends and colleagues in order to reach this video to wider audience. Okay. So let's talk about constants. Okay. So constants basically enforce a rule by which data can be inserted into a table. Okay. So constants are used to place the restriction on the database. Okay. Putting constants, we can put certain restrictions on the table. Okay. So constants basically prevents us entering wrong data in a table. Okay. So constants can be defined at the time of table creation when we are using create table command in order to create new table. At that time we can create constants, or other way is that if table is already exists, on top of that also we can create constants using alter table command. Okay. So let's look at the syntax. Okay. So basically the syntax of constants creation is create table, table name, then column name, data type, and thereafter we can put constant. Okay. Whatever is the constant name, that is what we can mention after data type. Okay. Now let's talk about different types of constant. Okay. So first one is not null. Okay. So this constant basically ensures that a column cannot store a null value. Okay. So we can specify not null constant in the same fashion whatever we discussed earlier, like column name, data type, and not null. Okay. Let's look at the example. So here basically we are creating employees. Okay. And this particular table is having 3 columns. Okay. Employee ID, then first name, and then last name. Okay. So on first name and last name, here we are applying constant not null. Okay. It means these 2 columns cannot store null values. Okay. Now let's move to the next one. Next we have unique constants. Okay. So unique constants basically ensures that information in the column is unique. Okay. It means there cannot be duplicacy in that particular column. Okay. But here we'll have to keep one thing in mind. Okay. Unique constant, it means that particular column can store null value as well. Okay. So unique constants accept null values. So we can define unique constants at column level. Okay. So syntax of defining unique constant is column name, then data type, and then unique. Okay. So using unique keyword in a column name, we can specify unique constants. Okay. Now let's look at the example. So here we are creating the table employees. Okay. It's having 4 columns: employee ID, first name, last name, and email. Okay. So 2 columns, basically first name and last name, they are using not null constants. Okay. But email is having unique constants. It means there cannot be any sort of duplicacy in that particular column. It means there will be unique email ID for each and every employee ID. Okay. So there cannot be any sort of duplicacy in emails. Okay. Then we have primary key. Okay. So primary key also store unique information, but the important thing here is that primary key cannot store null values. Okay. And that's the basic difference between unique key and primary key. Okay. And there can be only one particular, like primary key for a table, wherein there can be multiple unique key for a table. Okay. So there are 2 key differences among unique key and primary key. Number 1, primary key cannot store null value, whereas unique key can store null values. Okay. And number 2, one particular table will have only one primary key, but it can have multiple unique keys. Okay. So these are the 2 key differences among primary key and unique key. Okay. Let's look at some examples. Okay. So in first example, we are creating table employee. Okay. So here we are defining column employee ID as a primary key. Okay. So in second example, we are creating primary key in a different way. Okay. So we are defining primary key after defining all the columns. Okay. Here it's a composite primary key. Okay. So how we are defining? We are mentioning constants. Here we are mentioning constant name. So emp underscore pk, which is basically a constant name. Then primary key, it's a keyword. And here primary key is basically on employee ID and last name. Okay, it means there may be unique combination of employee ID plus last name in this particular table. Okay, so this particular combination may not be duplicate in this particular table. Okay, so this is about primary key, which always gives unique information and cannot store null values. Okay, and again one table will hold only one primary key. Okay, next we have foreign key. Okay, so a foreign key is a column which is basically derived from the primary key or unique key of some other table. Okay, it means it can hold only that value whatever exists in the parent table. Okay, so the table which is having foreign key is called the child table, and the table which is having primary key is called the parent table. So it's having that parent-child kind of relationships. So there are two important properties for this parent-child relationship. Okay, number one, record cannot be inserted into a child table if corresponding records in the master table don't exist. Okay, then number two, record of the master table cannot be deleted if corresponding records exist in the detail table. Okay, so both these parent and child data, it's tightly coupled. Okay, so how we can define foreign key? Okay, so basically the syntax is column name, data type, then we can put references. Okay, then the table name from where this particular reference is coming up, we can mention the column name for that particular table. Okay, then on delete cascade. Okay, so this is one optional thing. Okay, we'll discuss this particular option after some time. Okay, another way of defining foreign key is constant. Then we can mention constant name, then foreign key. Okay, we can mention the column name on which we are creating this particular foreign key, then references. Okay, then we can provide the information of table and column name for the reference table. Okay, now let's look at some examples. Okay, so in first example, create table departments. Here we are creating table department. Okay, in this particular table we are having two columns, department ID and department name. Okay, and department ID is basically primary key. Okay, now let's talk about second table. In second table we are having create table employees. Okay, this particular table is also having 4-5 columns. Okay, number one, employee ID, then name, city and department ID. Okay, so here employee ID in this particular table is primary key. Okay, and foreign key is basically your department ID. Okay, so if you look at the last statement, okay, foreign key, department ID. So we are making foreign key on department ID field. Okay, from where this particular value is coming up. So references, departments, department ID. Okay, it means this particular table can contain that department ID which exists in departments table. So let's understand this primary key and foreign key relationship in a better way using some example. Okay, so we do have table department. Okay, it's having two columns, department ID and department name. Okay, then we'll have another table, employee. Okay, it's having 4 columns. Okay, so in department table, department ID is primary key. In employee table, employee ID is primary key. Okay, but department ID in employee table, basically this particular field, okay, it's a foreign key for employee table. Okay, and what this particular field or column can store? It can store value whatever exists in department table in department ID column. Okay, so if you look at this particular table, the data of this particular table, we are having 3 department ID, 101, 102, 103. Okay, so employee table can store values among only these department IDs. Okay, so we can say that department ID here is basically a foreign key for the table employee. Okay, it's a primary key for department table. Okay, but for employee table it's a foreign key. Okay, so in department table we can keep adding different rows, 104, 105. Okay, the only thing is that in department table, department ID is primary key. Okay, and primary key is having 2 properties. One is that it should store unique values, and other is that it cannot store null values. Other than this, we can store any value in this particular table. So in employee table under department ID column, since it's a foreign key, okay, so it can only store values, whatever values are there in department ID. Okay, If 104 is not there in department table, we cannot make entry here for 104. Okay. So this is one of the use case of basically foreign key, where you have multiple departments and you want to map those departments with employees. Okay. So this foreign key thing will ensure that, like user cannot insert any new department. Okay. Whatever department already exists, only those department ID values can be inserted. Okay. So we talk about one option on delete cascade. Okay. So what it does, it basically changes the default behavior of foreign key. So what it means, when this particular option is enabled, okay, in a foreign key definition, if user deletes a record from the master table, all the corresponding records related to detail table also gets deleted. So if we enable on delete cascade option at the time of defining foreign key constants, okay, so it will ensure that, it will follow that parent-child kind of relationship. If you're deleting something, then it will be deleted from your detail table as well. Okay. Then we have check constants. So we can put different sort of business rule validation using this particular constants. Okay. So basically the syntax is column name, data type, check, and logical expression. So what exactly you want to check? Basically the condition you can specify. Okay. Let's look at the example. Okay. So in this particular example, we are creating table employees. Okay. Employee ID, which is basically a primary key. Now we are putting check constant on salary. Okay. And what kind of condition is there? Salary should be greater than 0. So this particular constant basically enforcing some sort of business validations. Okay. Then we have default. Okay. So we can set default value. Okay. At the time of defining table. Okay. So definition is basically column name, data type, default, and the value. Let's look at the example. So here, we are creating table employees. Employee ID is primary key. Hire date is another column. Okay. And by default, we are inserting sysdate. Okay. It means if we are not defining value for this particular column, by default, system will insert sysdate. So that's the concept of default value. If you are not defining any value, okay, at the time of insertion, so if default constant is there, it will ensure that whatever default value is defined, it will be inserted into the table. Okay. Now let's see how we can modify and drop constants. Okay. So basically we do have this statement, alter table, then we'll have to specify table name, add constant name. If we want to add the constant, then the column name on which we want to make this particular constants. Okay. And then drop constant name. So this is basically a syntax of modifying and dropping constants. Okay. Let's look at some examples. So alter table employees, add constants. So we are adding constant. Here constant name is chk underscore salary, and we are putting check constants where salary should be greater than 0. Okay. Next we have alter table employees, drop constants chk salary. Okay. So here we are dropping constants chk underscore salary. Okay. Then the last we have alter table employees, add foreign key dept ID, references department dept ID. Okay. So here we are just making column department ID as a foreign key, and it's having references from department ID. Okay. So basically there is one table user underscore constants, which basically holds all the information related to constants. Okay. So you can query like this and it will give you all the information related to constant name. Okay. So that's about some important concept related to database constants. Let's do some practical exercise now. Now let's do some practical exercise in order to understand constants. Okay. For that one, we'll create two tables, department and employees. Okay. So let's create it. Create table department. Okay. I am going to keep two columns within this particular table. One is department ID. Okay. Which should be numeric. Okay. Then the department name. Okay. Which should be in a string format. So I'll keep it varchar 250. Okay. So this is the basic table structure of department table. Okay. Now I'll put two constants within this particular table. So department ID, I'll put primary key for department ID. Okay. So we'll specify department ID as a primary key. So I'll simply mention it over here, primary key, okay, and department name, okay, I'll put it not null, okay. So department ID I'm putting here as a primary key. It means it cannot have duplicate values, it cannot store null values, okay. And department name I'm specifying not null constants. It means it does not contain any value which is null, okay. Okay, so let's execute it, okay. So it has successfully created table department, okay. Now we'll try to put some values in this particular table, okay. So we'll insert some records. So insert into the department, okay, then values, then 101, which is basically a department ID, and then department name, okay. So let's say MS, okay. So one row inserted successfully, okay. Let's try to put some more rows, okay. So I'll just simply keep it 102 and the department is physics, okay. It has inserted one more row, okay. Let's insert one more row, 103. Then now the department is, let's say, computer, okay. So it has inserted altogether 3 rows, okay. Now let's validate this primary key and not null constants, okay. So let me put 103 again, okay, having different department name. Let's say electronics, okay. In this case, system should not allow me to enter this particular value because 103 is already exists, okay. So let's execute it, okay. See, so it's showing us some violation, unique constant violations, okay. Since 103 is already exists, so it's not allowing us to enter the same value, okay. If I'll just change it 104, which is not there, then it should allow me to enter, okay. Now let's execute it again, okay. So this row has inserted successfully, okay. Similarly, we cannot insert not null in department name, okay. Let's say we are going to insert 105 as a department ID, okay, which is not exists in the table, so it should allow us to enter, but in department name I'm going to put null, okay. Then it should throw me some error, okay. See, it's showing these objects cannot accept null values, okay. So it means both the constants are working as per our expectations, okay. Let's create one more table, okay, employee. So create table employee, okay. In this particular table I am going to add couple of fields, okay. So first one is employee ID, okay, and again it should be numeric, so I'm keeping it number, and this is basically primary key of this particular table, so I'm making it as a primary key, okay. Then the, let's say, employee name, okay, employee underscore name, okay, it should be in a form of a string, so I'm keeping it varchar 2, okay. The length should be 50, okay. This is I'm defining as a not null, okay, so this cannot be null, okay. Then I am defining one more field which is basically email, okay. So it should be in a form of a string, the length should be 100, okay. And this one I am making it as a unique constants, okay. So email should be unique across the table, okay. So I'm making it unique, so I'll just mention keyword unique over here, okay. Then we'll keep hire date, okay, hire date, okay. I think it's better to keep it like this, hire underscore date, okay. So it should be in a form of date format, okay. And this is I am defining, let's say, default, okay. If we are not going to insert anything, okay, by default it should enter system date, so I'm making it as a sys date, okay. And again I am going to define one more column, okay, that is basically salary, okay. It should be in the form of number, okay. That's it. Okay. So this is basically the design of normal employee table having employee ID as a primary key. Okay. Now we'll add one more column. Okay. Department ID. Department underscore ID. It should be in a number. Okay. And here department ID, we are going to make it as a foreign key for this particular table. Okay. So how we can define? I have just defined column department ID within this particular table. Okay. Now I'll put constraint. Okay, constant, the name of constant. So I'm making it, or I'm putting it fk underscore tapped id. Okay, this is basically the constant name. Okay, then I'm going to define this particular field as a foreign key. So I'll mention foreign. Okay, foreign. Then the column name on which I want to define foreign key. So which is basically department ID. So this is basically the field of foreign key. Okay, now references. Okay, so from where it should take references? Okay, so it should take references from department ID. Okay, so I'll mention the table name over here, department. Okay, the field is department ID. Okay, now let's try to execute this query. Okay, okay, so there should be foreign key. So key is missing. Okay, I'm just correcting it. Okay, now let's re-execute it. Okay, so table is created successfully. Okay, now let's try to put some records in this particular table. Okay, so insert into employee. Okay, values, employee ID. Okay, I am going to give something like 300, 400. Okay, then employee name, let's say Imran. Okay, then the email ID, I'm putting here imran@abc.com. Okay, then we have hire date. Okay, so let's mention today's date as a hire date. Okay, so it's 19th of 2024. Okay, then we have salary, let's say 10,000. Okay, then we have department ID, which is basically a foreign key. Okay, it means it can store only those values which are defined in department table. Okay, now let's see what exactly we have defined in department table. Okay, select stop from department. Okay, so in department table we have got 4 entries: 101, 102, 103, 104. Okay, it means, you know, like whatever employees we are going to define, they should have department from these 4 departments. Okay, other than these 4, other entries will not be accepted by this particular table, because here department ID is a foreign key. Okay, now let's try to insert 103. Okay, now let's execute it. Okay, so it has successfully inserted this particular record. Okay, now let's re-execute this statement again. Okay, just for the information. Okay, now let's try to make one more entry. Okay, this time let's say employees 401. Okay, name I can put something like, let's say Sagar. Okay, email is the same, something like sagar@abc.com. hire date I'll keep it the same. Okay, salary I'll keep it the same. Okay, and then department ID. Okay, now let's try to put something which is not there in department table, but still we are enforcing it to be inserted here. Okay, so let's put 105. So if we look at this particular table, 105 is not there. Okay, so in this particular case, since department ID is basically a foreign key of employee table, so it should not allow us to enter this particular value. Okay, so let's execute this statement. Okay, so it's showing some error. Okay, it's saying parent key not found. Okay, so it means if we are defining foreign key, then we'll have to respect whatever is defined in parent table. That value only can be inserted. Okay, now let's 105 is not there, let's put it. For Sagar the department is 101. Okay, now it should allow us to enter this particular value. Okay, so this is inserted. Okay, now let's see the behavior of this default value concept. Okay, now this time I am not going to enter anything for hire date. Okay, now there is one important thing. Okay, now we are not going to insert value for hire date. Okay, it means we'll have to specify the column names. Okay, otherwise system will not be understand what's the sequence of these values. Okay, so in this case we'll have to specify column name. So first one is basically employee ID. I'll keep it employee underscore ID. Then the next one is EMP underscore name. Okay, then we have email. Okay, then hire date we are not inserting. Next we have salary, and then the debt ID. Okay, so it should be like this. Okay, so this will have actually one-to-one mapping. Okay, now in this particular case explicitly we are not inserting hire date. Okay, so it means as per the default value concept, by default sysdate should be inserted in the system. Okay, let's try to execute it. Some comma is missing. Where we have missed the comma? Okay, we haven't closed the brackets. Okay, now let's re-execute it. Okay, okay, Sagar is already there. Okay, let's clear this one. Okay, and we'll make one more entry. Let's say 430402. Okay, the name should be, let's say, Virat. Okay, and the ID will be the same, Virat at abc.com. Okay, tell the same department I can keep it 101 or anything between 101 to 104. I am keeping here 102. Okay, now let's try to insert this particular row and see whether hire date is automatically populating with sysdate or not. Okay, so one row is inserted. Okay, now let's query on employee table. Employee. Okay, so this one is inserted with hire date as a 19th October 24, which is the current date. It means this default value thing is working out. Okay, now we'll see how we can modify constants or how we can add constants. Okay, so we do have one field, salary. Okay, on that particular field as of now we don't have any constants. I'm going to put check constants in this particular field. Okay, so how can I do that? I need to write alter table statements. Okay, let's write alter table name. So here it's employee. Okay, then add constants. Okay, constants, and the constants name. So let's say check underscore cell. Okay, check underscore cell. Okay, and then check salary greater than 0. Okay, so here I am putting check constants on the field salary. Okay, let's re-execute it. Okay, I'll have to put brackets over here. Okay, so table employee is altered. Okay, now since we have put check constants, so we cannot insert any value which is having salary 0. Let's try to enter it. Okay, so let's see, we are going to enter one more record. Let's say the employee ID is 10403. Okay, and then the name is this time, let's say Rohit. The email I'll keep it rohit at abc.com. Okay, then salary I'll make it, or I'll try to insert 0. Okay, and department ID I think let's keep it 102 only. Okay, since we have put check constants, so it should not allow us to enter 0 as a salary. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it's throwing an error saying check constants violated. Okay, so this is how we can put check constants. So that's all about constants. Hope you would have liked this particular video. If so, please give a thumbs up and please like, subscribe and share it in order to reach it to wider audience. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Till then, goodbye. Thank you. Keep watching.